Davidson. If the First Minister is looking to see what's on at the Cineworld tomorrow, Dark Shadows and The Dictator are playing, just for his own personal knowledge. But I'll ask the First Minister when he'll next meet the Secretary of State for Scotland. First Minister.
No plans, near future.
Ruth Davidson. 2 years ago, this SNP government withdrew its commitment to publicly fund the new Sick Kids Hospital in Edinburgh. Yesterday, NHS Lothian confirmed that the project has been delayed yet again, not for the first, not for the second, but for the fifth time. The Health Secretary approved the plans which promised us a new Sick Kids completed by early next year. Will the First Minister tell us when the doors will actually open at a new children's hospital facility in Edinburgh? First Minister.
Can I say that the full bouquet of absurdity of that question is based on the fact that a government in London which cuts the direct capital budget by 30%,
Exactly.
and then calls for direct capital investment has a credibility gap as wide as the River Forth. We're looking at the non-profit distribution model to build the Sick Kids Hospital. That hospital will be built, but NPD programmes inevitably, because of their nature, take time, but the commitment is there from the government. But if the Conservative Party and the Liberal Democrats wish to see a direct capital investment plan to help the Sick Kids Hospital and other direct projects in the National Health Service, then restore the capital cuts that have been taken by the Chancellor in London.
Ruth Davidson. No, these excuses don't work. This government promised a hospital. The hospital hasn't been built. And I can tell the First Minister, I can tell him that the date now projected has slipped to 2017. But the sad truth is that the chair of NHS Lothian yesterday reported that they are now being forced to prepare a plan B to keep the hospital at the old site. Now, I have a personal interest in this. I am one of the many thousands of people across Scotland whose life was saved by the specialist care they received at the Sick Kids Hospital in Edinburgh. And I know how beloved the old Sheens building is. However, the limitations of the site, the age of the building and its distance from an acute emergency hospital means that this facility is no longer suitable to provide the world-class care that our children deserve into the future. Plan B is not good enough. Plan A has slipped 5 times on the First Minister's watch. This government cannot sit on its hands and let this project fall apart because it's too important.
It's in the report.
So,
It's in the report. Read it.
will the First Minister now show the political leadership that patients and their families expect? Will he make this a political priority? Will he bring all the power the government has to bear to get the players round the table, to get the bricks laid, to get the doors open and to get the children treated by 2017? First Minister.
When we've had debates on capital spending, the Conservative Party have said, what about the budget consequentials, which have increased the Scottish Government's budget? So I asked the officials to prepare the Government's capital budget, adding on the consequentials from the last autumn statement and the last budget. In 2010-11, including these consequentials, the capital budget allocated to the Scottish Government was £3,293,000,000. In 2014-15, that falls to £2,489,000,000, a cut of almost 30%. So a party in government at Westminster which imposes a 30% capital cut and then calls for a capital investment directly across the country is guilty of the most overwhelming hypocrisy. The alternative to keep our commitments to the people of Scotland, which indeed we shall keep, speaking as another ex-patient of the Sick Kids Hospital in Edinburgh, is to go for non-profit distribution funding. Securing non-profit distribution funding inevitably takes time, but it shall be done. And the capital programme in the National Health Service in Scotland is infinitely superior to what's happening south of the border, and just occasionally Ruth Davidson and her colleagues should take a glance at the decimation of the National Health Service in England, which will never happen as long as we're in government in Scotland.